What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Prophecy Misfits Podcast. This is episode 351. Chin scratching. Got some chin scratching topics that we're going to be going over tonight. It's been a minute since we've done a conspiracy episode, and we're going to go ahead and do one today because there's a few just coincidental type things happening that y'all know me. I don't believe in coincidence. So there's definitely some interesting things that we're going to be going over tonight. So hopefully you brought your tinfoil hats, and hopefully you guys have chins made for scratching, because we're going to go over a few of those things. So, but this is what we do on Tuesdays and Saturdays. And, sorry, misread something. This is what we do on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Thank you guys for joining me today. We get together and we discuss the crazy things that are happening around the world. And that even includes things like conspiracies. And I know that's a word that tends to turn a lot of people off, especially in the church and prophecy community and stuff like that. But there's a difference between conspiracy and conspiracy theory. And so, yeah, that's definitely important that we remember that. But this is what we do. We get together and we understand that we are living in the last days. And eventually those last days, post-rapture, will turn into the end times, which will be the day of the Lord, which prophecy is going to start going wild. And we're called to be watchmen. We're called to pay attention for these things happening, so we're not caught off guard. That's the important part that I think a lot of people tend to get wrong. You know, I don't necessarily like saying that, but I think it's something that people get wrong on both sides of the aisle. Those who watch prophecy and those who don't. Because they're like, well, there's no signs for the rapture. Well, that's true. There are no signs for the rapture, but we're not called to look for signs of the rapture, which is an imminent thing that we don't know when is going to happen. We're called to watch for things so when the rapture does happen, we're not caught off guard. There's a definitely a different thing between those two. So that's what we do here. We do the latter. We watch for things so we're not caught off guard when things do start happening. So, but glad to have you guys here again. This is episode 351, Chin Scratching. And we're going to be going over a few things. Before we start getting into tinfoil hat stuff, we got some stuff regarding this Warrior Dividend, $1,776 check for the Army and stuff like that. There's something curious about that. We'll go over that. We also got the Department of Justice is now starting to hijack states' voter data, which we knew this was coming because this is part of their plan to lock down the country when it comes to us as humans. So we'll kind of go over that a little bit. We also got Miriam Adelson. If you guys remember her, we did a deep dive on her month or two back, somewhere along there. And now she's basically offering Trump $250 million if he runs for a third term. So we got some things there. And then getting into the conspiracy type things, the stuff that there's just a lot of coincidence around it. We're going to go over the Bondi Beach attack in Australia, the shooting there. And then we're going to go over the Brown shooting, which had a very important person tied to it. And the timing of it is curious, to say the least. So we got a few things that we'll go over with that. So should be fun. Should be a good time. And hopefully y'all are ready for tonight. Oh, sure. Just kidding. Okay, good. Good stuff. So hopefully you guys are ready for tonight in regards to that. So let's go ahead and get into some housekeeping, shall we?
Housekeeping?
I think you're sleeping.
Housekeeping?
All right, usual spiel. If you guys can, like, share, subscribe, get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. That's why we do this. That's the whole reason for this. If we're not focusing on Christ, we're not focusing on sharing his gospel, then what on earth are we doing this for? And so that's kind of why we're called to be watchmen, on top of not being caught off guard, but to use it to encourage each other as Christians and followers of Christ, but also to use it as witnessing tools to get people to Christ, the only place where we can find salvation. So if you guys can do me a solid and like, share, subscribe, it does help reach those people, and definitely appreciate that on that. Also, make sure you guys follow Rumble and Telegram. Those are my backup channels. If I get booted off YouTube, we'll be backup live streaming over on Rumble, so make sure you guys go ahead and follow over there. And then Telegram, post updates, announcements, and other little things here and there that I can't necessarily put in video format. that I just kind of throw up on Telegram. So follow that over there if you want to. If you don't like Rumble, you don't like Telegram, I completely understand that. Just make sure you bookmark the WretchedWatchmen.com website. That's your one-stop shop to stay up to date on everything that's happening with the Wretched Watchmen stuff. You'll find the latest podcasts and live streams. The announcements are there, so if all of a sudden I'm not live streaming and I didn't announce it prior, I'll put it in the announcements. You'll find the free book to download there and other things that's, they're worth knowing about, I guess. So yeah, you'll find all that stuff there. Just bookmark the website. If you guys like to support this channel, what I got going on, I got donation links down below. CashApp, Venmo, and GiveSendGo. This channel is not monetized. I do not make anything from ads, views, or anything like that. Nothing is monetized. Nothing is paywalled. Everything is free. That's how ministry should be, in my opinion. I think we've lost the plot and we're off our rockers when it comes to the church and monetizing every last single thing, including those who build rapture kits. Get your rapture kit for $30. Well, here's an idea. Go down to Staples, grab a thing of copy paper for $2, write out your own letter with the scripture that you need, print it out, and boom, you don't need a $30 rapture kit in order to do stuff. So everything should be free, but you guys are the ones that allow me to do everything free here. You guys are the ones that make this all run. And so I'm truly just thankful for you guys, honestly. So thank you guys for your support and your blessings and everything like that. I definitely appreciate that. A couple other things. I've had a few people email this past week. I guess I should just go ahead and say it here. For those who send stuff through the mail to me, whoa, camera good? The camera kind of stopped there. Hopefully we're all good. Yeah, so for those who send stuff through the mail to me, they're asking, since I moved, has my mailing address changed? No. Mailing address is exactly the same. I use a mail center. They get all their mail and stuff like that. So even if I move, it's still, they've got it. So don't worry about change of address or mailing address, anything like that. It's all the same. The other thing is Fridays. I've been letting everybody know Fridays we do the Wretched recaps. Those are about a 20-25 minute video that we put out every Friday, going over about 5-6 different news topics that have happened during the week that we don't necessarily get to during the podcast, the live streams and stuff like that. So make sure you guys are tuning in for those Wretched recaps. If you don't click on them going, oh, he's just going over stuff that he has before. Nope, it's all new stuff. So make sure you guys tune in for those videos as well. So good stuff there. And I think that's it. Hopefully that camera does not bug out. I don't know why it bugged out. That was weird. All right. Pray for the camera. The camera needs your prayers. There's a demon in the camera. Deliver the camera. Anyways, we're not going to go there. All right. It is Saturday. Let's go ahead and get into the Wretched Weather Report.
Everybody got their fancy hats? Let's go!
Joseph Jalapeno, lay hands on the camera. Oh, that's good stuff. Anyways, getting away from that charismatic nonsense, let's go ahead and get into the Wretched Weather Report. And what we do is we keep track of the trends of what's going on when it comes to the weather around the world. Crazy things that are happening, storms, volcanoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, and all that type of stuff. So I'm not a weatherman. I'm not a geologist. I don't claim to be. I think it's just worth keeping track of the trends of what's going on, not only for increase in birth pains that we know are going to increase in size and frequency as we head into the day of the Lord, but also it gives us an opportunity to pray for those affected by traumatic and devastating events happening around the world. We got to be praying for one another and each other on that. So this past week, when it comes to earthquakes, 5.5 magnitude and up, we have a major decrease from last week. If you guys remember, we had 2 columns last week and a couple large 7.0s. But yeah, it's a decrease, but there's still a few. And we got 5.6 in Petropavlovsk, Kamchatsky, Russia. We got a 5.7 in San Jose Village, Northern Mariana Islands. Then there's a 5.7 in the South Sandwich Islands, a 5.6 in the Penta de Barica, Panama. 5.5 in Basco, Philippines, 5.9 in Petropavlovsk, Kamchatsky, Russia again, and then a 5.7 in Lambasa. That's always fun to say. Humor me. Just say it. Lambasa. It's fun. It's almost kind of sounds like a salsa dance. Do the lambasa. Anyways, I'm a little tired today, so I might be a little loopy. Hang with me, you guys. Yeah. Anyways, 5.7 on Lambasa, Fiji, and then there's a 5.6 in the Bali Island. So that's what we got when it comes to earthquakes, volcanoes. This past week, yeah. See, you guys know what's up, Lambasa. Oh, Bab's got it. Lumbasa. Yeah, there you go. You got a little throw the little. Volcanoes this past week. We got 45 volcanoes actively erupting around the world right now, which is +1 from last week. We are still staying in the global average, which is 44 to 48. And we got 6 in North America, 6 in South America, 2 in Europe, 2 in Antarctica, 3 in Africa, 18 in Asia, which is the +1 from last week, and then 8 in Oceania. So that's what we got when it comes to the volcanoes, or the volcanoes. As I've heard some people say, volcanoes. The volcanoes. What's the worst type of canoe that you want to deal with? It's the vol variety. I've really lost my mind, and I really got to rein it in. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, that's all we got when it comes to the wretched weather reports. I'm sure there's some other weather events that are happening, storms and floodings like that. The floodings have not stopped. This year has been just total insanity when it comes to global flooding issues. I'm sure there's stuff going on. I just don't have anything in my to show you in my thing. So, but yeah, that's when it comes to the earthquakes and volcanoes. In regards to that, all right, man. I've driven the chat, man. I'm still present, mentally present. Just don't leave now. Y'all are good stuff. You guys talking about Lambamba now? Yeah, that movie. What's that dude's name? Lou Diamond Phillips, is that? Anyways, all right. I've derailed the chat myself, so that's good stuff. Oh my gosh, I gotta. Anyways, let's go ahead and some of y'all take some of this stuff too seriously. I'll tell you what, gotta relax. Cherokee Chick running late, better late than never. Yep, good to see you, Cherokee. You made it in. That's always good to see you. All right, let's go ahead and get into a couple things before we start putting the tinfoil hats on, shall we? And let's talk about this one. And so there's the thing that came out about Trump came out and announced that he was going to be doling out a bonus to a lot of the military members and stuff like that. I've heard through the grapevine from a few people that those bonuses, quote unquote bonuses, have indeed made their way towards some of them. But the thing is Trump was lying in order to gain some credit. They're not bonuses. They're actually not beneficial to the troops at all, and he took money that was already assigned for the troops and made them bonuses in order to gain public credit for himself. And so we got it here. It says Trump rebrands congressionally approved troop housing subsidy as warrior dividend bonus. It says more than $2.9 billion in reconciliation funds was allocated to beef up troop housing allowances. Now it's being used for $1,776 checks. It says Donald Trump's 1776 checks for more than 1 million troops announced Wednesday came from congressionally allocated reconciliation funds intended to subsidize housing allowances for service members, a senior administration official confirmed. During a primetime TV address, Trump said that he was proud to announce that 1,450,000 military service members would receive a special we call warrior dividend before Christmas. He added that to honor the nation's founding, we are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that, and the checks are already on the way. So basically what happened, to break this down simply, for the budget for the One Big Beautiful Bill, it already set aside the $2.9 billion that was supposed to be funds for military members for housing subsidy. It's to help pay for their housing because they need to pay for housing, and so the government helps in that situation. And so what Trump did is he took money out of that, rebranded it to a warrior dividend fund, and then sent out $1,776 checks to everybody. The thing is, is the housing subsidy that was approved was already much lower than previous year's housing subsidies. And on top of that, the inflation of rent has increased exponentially. So it was already hurting the military members in that way. Then he took some of that money, sent out a bonus, which is taxable. It's a taxable bonus, which means they're going to get taxed for this quote unquote bonus that they're getting. And so they're losing even more money for their housing and getting taxed on top of it. Also, Trump can get recognition for sending out a bonus that was already going to go to the military members in a different way. Interesting. To go along with that, it says Congress appropriated $2.9 billion to the Department of Defense. It's still not congressionally approved to be called the Department of War, to supplement the basic allowance for housing entitlement within the One Big Beautiful Bill, the senior official said. Approximately 1.28 million active component military members and 176,000 reserve component military members will receive the supplement. The $2.9 billion meant to subsidize the basic allowance for housing, the monthly payment to cover troops' off-base expenses such as rent, mortgage, and utilities, known as the BAH, comes as some service members have struggled to make the most of the benefit. And so, in order for Trump to get recognition for sending out a bonus, he's actually stifling and hurting the military members when it comes to their housing and pay on top of it. So, good stuff. Good stuff, right? So, in order to make himself look good, he's going to spit on the military. Fun times. And by the way, we're still waiting for all those checks that he promised all the Americans and stuff like that, you know. We're still waiting for the Doge to do what they're doing and decrease all that stuff. We're still waiting for tariffs to actually benefit us in some type of way. We're still waiting for inflation to come down. We're still waiting for an audit of Fort Knox. We're still waiting for the multiple checks that he said that he was going to send out to everybody. Still waiting for a lot of stuff, but promises made, promises kept, right? That's how it goes. Anyways, all right, moving on to the next one. I just wanted to address that. Let's move on to this. Says Trump's DOJ offers states confidential deal to remove voters flagged by feds. The Justice Department attorney says 11 states have shown a willingness to stop residents from voting at the Department of Justice request. So, if you're new around here to this channel, we believe that elections are selections. You have no voice. It's an illusion. Democracy is a made-up word. Voting is an illusion to, one, give you the idea of that you're actually doing something and have a voice that you can raise and actually make a difference. And two, it's basically used to make you give consent for Luciferian agenda principles, which is part of their guidelines. It's not really a rule book, but it's how the Luciferians go about their thing. So voting doesn't do anything. There's really no other way to put it. But in this case, they still utilize voting for data collection. And this is something that we've been watching for a while because of the ICE situation, the Department of Homeland Security, and what they're trying to do with Project 2025. And they're trying to consolidate voter data and add it to their centralized database that's being built by Palantir. And so this is kind of playing a part when it comes to that. That's why I think it's worth paying attention to in regards to data collection. It says the U.S. Department of Justice has sent a confidential draft agreement to more than a dozen states that would require election officials to remove any alleged ineligible voters identified during a federal review of their voter rolls. The agreement, called the Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU, would hand the federal government a major role in election administration, a responsibility that belongs to the states under the U.S. Constitution. So we have another situation where, in order to collect more data on the voters and gather all their information, they are now again, I've lost count of how many times, overstepping, or in this case, stepping on the Constitution and getting involved with the election situation, which is funny because I've always heard that from the right wingers, that it's only the left that ever meddles with the election stuff. Now we have a case of the Trump administration doing just that, and everybody's dead silent when it comes to it. Why? Because it's their guy, and that's how the theater of politics, Satan's religion, works in regards to all this stuff. So it's fascinating how that works. It says a Justice Department official identified 11 states that have expressed an interest in the agreement during a federal court hearing in December, according to a transcript review by State Line. 2 additional states, Colorado and Wisconsin, have publicly rejected the Memorandum of Understanding and released copies of the proposal. But again, we've got 11 states that are interested in doing this. That doesn't count the states that have already volunteered their information, including the great Republic of Texas over here has done just that. Interesting. It says the 11 states all fall into the list of, they have expressed with us a willingness to comply based on the represented MOU that we have sent them. Eric Neff, the acting chief of Justice Department's voting section, said at a hearing. He spoke at December 4th, the hearing which is a hearing in a federal lawsuit brought by the Justice Department against California, which has refused a demand for the state's voter data. That was a thing that happened during the midterm situation where the administration was basically telling California that you need to give us all your voting data, and California said, no, we're not going to do that. This is one of those situations where, they try and make you pick a side, but there's really no side worth standing on. We know that the Trump administration is not doing what they're supposed to be doing by stepping on the Constitution, trying to gain information that they're not supposed to have. And then, California is doing all the wrong things when it comes to their leadership and how they run and all the corruptness of that state in regards to that. So that they're hiding something. So this is a case where you don't pick a side. Again, we're not here to pick sides. We're sitting in the bleachers next to Jesus watching the game on the field. And this is clearly a situation where we need to be sitting in the bleachers because there is a game definitely happening right now. So that's important to understand too. Don't pick a side in regards to this because both are wrong and corrupt in this. It says Neff's courtroom disclosure, which State Line is the first to report, comes as the Justice Department has sued 21 states and the District of Columbia for unredacted copies of their voter rolls after demanding that the data from most states in recent months. The unredacted lists include sensitive personal information such as driver's license and partial social security numbers and a variety of other information that's not listed here. It's funny that they're suing for these copies that aren't redacted, but if anybody's paying attention to the PSYOP with the Epstein stuff, they only released half of the stuff that they were supposed to, and all of it is blacked out, so that's funny. The states Neff identified that are going along with the MOU are led by Republicans, including Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Tennessee, Utah, and Virginia. The draft memorandum of understanding represents a new effort by the Trump administration to gain access to some states' voter data without litigation. There's still the possibility. I've seen some rumblings. I don't know for sure how or what it would do, but there's still some rumblings that they're still attempting to overturn the 2020 election. Even now, I don't know what's going on with that. But again, I don't have anything that verifies that. But maybe this has something to do with it. Who knows? It says the administration lawsuits mostly target Democratic states where election officials refused initial requests for voter data and allege that the demand is unlawful and risks of the privacy of millions of voters. They have also voiced fears that the Trump administration could use the information to target its political enemies. And that is something that we need to pay attention to because that goes right in line. And that's why it's so important that everybody needs to remember this. The mainstream media is just now starting to reference this. And it's been several months now, and they're just they're not full blown putting it out there, but they're just starting to reference it. And that's the NSPM 7, that national security policy that Trump signed in that has to do with that they will go after anybody who is deemed anti-Constitution, anti-capitalist, anti-Christian, anti-America, and all these, and extremist and other things like that. What they're doing is they're building a system that will allow them to turn everybody who is opposed to the government, the national government, the rules that they're putting in place, and deem him as a domestic terrorist. And it's interesting because I watched an interview thing that Trump did. This was a few weeks back, where they were asking some questions about stuff regarding, the domestic terrorism, foreign terrorism, the bombings of Venezuela boats, and all that type of stuff. And they asked, would you give execution orders for domestic terrorists? And they refused to answer. They wouldn't answer yes or no. They just bypassed the question. Trump refused to answer that question, which tells me that that's very much a discussion that they're having behind the scenes, and it's very much on the table. And that would be in line with NSPF 7. So any one of us, because of the views that we hold, would be deemed a domestic terrorist under that NSPF 7. And if they do enact execution of domestic terrorism, we could be executed for just simply having a difference of opinion compared to the administration right now. And so we know Trump is going after political groups. We know that he's making this one of the main elements of the Project 2025 situation. And so when we see something like this, where he's trying to get voter data, he's trying to gain access to all that information to find out who is on what political side, and it falls in line with the NSPF 7 thing. That's why this is so important. That's why we pay attention to the little details. And David Watson says, can you say Patriot Act? NSPN 7 has already been deemed much, much worse than the Patriot Act. Because this is something that is much more actionable in regards to this, and much stronger in its lines. It's like lines in the sand type of thing. And so, but it's something that nobody really knows about. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's paying attention to it. A lot of people have just brushed it off and said, oh, that's no big deal. And the mainstream media is, again, just barely starting to touch on it now. Only a couple, I think Washington Post and one other one has mentioned it, and that's it. Nobody knows about this thing, and it's very, very bad. And so that's why it's important that we pay attention to these little details. If you don't know what the NSPN 7 is, I've got a video on my channel. Just go to the channel, and it has NSPM 7 on it. Just watch that, and I go through the entire thing, and you'll know what's going on with that. So that's why this is important, that they're trying to gain access to state data on this. It says Neff said 4 states with Republican secretaries of state, Arkansas, Indiana, Kansas, and Wyoming, have complied voluntarily with the Justice Department's demand without memoranda of understanding. It says federal officials say that they say that they will follow federal privacy laws, but critics fear voter data is being shared with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, which operates a powerful citizenship verification tool known as SAVE. This is something that we've covered when it comes to the immigration, ICE, Homeland Security thing that we've been covering for a long time now. It has to do with gaining this and running it through the SAVE program so they can start going after people that way too. It says the Trump administration has previously confirmed that the Justice Department plans to share voter data with Homeland Security. So yeah. It also says earlier this year, Homeland Security overhauled the SAVE program into a tool that can scan millions of voter records against government databases for evidence of citizenship. The program was previously used for one-off searches to check whether non-citizens were eligible for government benefits. So some Republican secretaries of state have agreed to upload their voter rolls into SAVE. Democratic secretaries of state object to using the program and said that they are wary of what will happen to the voter information once it's provided to the Trump administration, including its potential use by the Department of Homeland Security. We'll get to that in just a second. But this is also something to keep in mind, because a lot of people says, who cares? They've got the information anyways. Why does it matter? Because, we went over the deal that the government made with Palantir to build a centralized system behind the scenes. We are still, as far as the United States information, still decentralized. It's all on separate servers that don't communicate with each other right now. They have to go to each one and access that information if they need it. And so, you have your IRS stuff in one, you have your driver's license stuff in the other, you have your voting thing in the other, and so on and so forth. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to collect that information and then they can start plugging it into the centralized system. So all your information for every single department, every bit of data that you have is in one single location. And that's what they're trying to do. That's why this is also important too, because they can't just access that information right now. They have to go and obtain it as of right now. So that's also important to remember. Now, this says the DOJ contractor, quote unquote, whoever that is, would get voter data. Just take a stab at who do you think the contractor would be? It says the draft agreement would give the Justice Department wide authority to share the voter data of states that sign on, and the department would be authorized to share the data with a contractor who needs access to perform duties related to voter list maintenance verification, according to the draft agreement. The agreement doesn't name any contractors or specify whether they would be inside or outside the government. So again, another general information thing that we don't know who would be handling our information in regards to that. And there is the memorandum of understanding. Because of the lawsuit between the Trump administration and California, this was able to be released. So fun times there. So again, that's why it's important that we don't just, and I always like to remind people about this too, don't just read the headlines and move on. That's why, because it's like when you read the headlines of this about, Department of Justice trying to get voter data. It's like, okay, well, voting doesn't matter anyways, who cares? Because if you read into it and you understand the details that we've gone over in the past, these little things that kind of go under the radar, that a lot of people don't talk about and things like that, you can start piecing things together and go, well, even though this has to do with voting data, the fact is it's another way for them to access that information, use it against political leanings and stuff like that through the NSPM7, goes through the SAVE system, it goes into the centralized data information, and so on and so forth. And so always read past the headlines. Always read past the headlines. Oh, man. Karen Victoria, I understand and know fully well that this is not our home. That's true. Very much true. We're just passing through. Our life is but a vapor. I'm definitely looking to get out of here. Doc says we'll need to hop in a time machine. It's funny that there's a person named Doc who's talking about a time machine. Is your last name Brown by chance? Pretty funny. Good stuff. All right. One more thing before we start getting into the tinfoil hat stuff. Oh boy. So where do I even start on this? It says Trump says billionaire Miriam Adelson offered him another $250 million to run for a third term. So if you guys don't know, Miriam Adelson's basically the Israeli kingmaker for Trump. She's the one that's her and her husband who passed, Sheldon. They're the ones who basically influenced Israel's tie or Trump's ties to Israel. They're the ones that got Trump. They basically said, we'll give you a boatload of money if you move the embassy into Jerusalem and declare it to be the capital and stuff like that. So Trump, because he wanted the money, naturally went and did that. And there's other connections there with Jared Kushner and some rabbi people and stuff. We did an entire deep dive regarding Miriam Adelson and what she's involved with. She's involved with news stuff here in the United States and in Israel and all that type of stuff. So you can find that on the channel as well. You'll find it, Israeli Kingmaker, Miriam Adelson. So go check that out if you don't know who that is. She is a very important person, a very influential person who is one of the controllers of Trump that you don't necessarily know anything about. And that's why it's always important to remember that Trump is still just a puppet. He's controlled. He's got quite a few controllers behind him. We know he's connected to the Rothschilds. We know he's connected to the Russian mob. We know he's connected to the Saudis. And we know he's connected to Miriam Adelson. Who else is back there? I'm sure there's a lot of people. But yeah, he's just another puppet when it comes to this as well. Says President Donald Trump said billionaire Miriam Adelson offered him $250 million to run for a third term after the Republican mega donor mentioned 4 more years for him at the White House's Hanukkah reception on Tuesday night. Says Adelson said that she spoke with criminal defense lawyer Alan Dershowitz. Of course she did. Dershowitz's name will pop up again a little bit later, don't worry. And discussed the legal timing about 4 more years. Says, Alan, I agree with you, she said before turning to the president, who was standing beside her, and added, so we can do it. Think about it. Adelson then whispered something to Trump, and the president then quipped. She said, think about it. I'll give you another $250 million, drawing laughter from the audience. The billionaire donor then swiftly responded, I will give. This is a situation where who knows what all is going to happen. There's many ways that you could speculate in regards to how this will happen. Will it become a wartime event where the elections get put on hold? Will they do something that just destroys the Constitution and gives him extended time? Who knows? We know that J.D. Vance is sitting in the wings there, who's a Peter Thiel acolyte, and then we also know that Erica Kirk has come out in support of J.D. Vance for 2028 on that as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and I know a lot of people have different opinions and stuff like that. Take with that what you will. But it is fascinating that Miriam Adelson has been, this isn't the first time, but has been one of the main proponents of giving Trump a third term for presidency. So she's got a lot of influence. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right. Doc, yes, I believe I'm a girl too. Okay, well, then you're definitely not, definitely not Doc Brown. Anyways. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into, we're good. We're going to go ahead and get into some of the conspiracy stuff like that. So I started off this thing because I think it's important that we understand this, because the moment that you mention conspiracy, people start getting turned off, and it's like, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to that, conspiracy theories, da-da-da-da-da. But it's important to remember that there's a big difference between conspiracy and conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory is the stuff that comes up with the super wackadoodle type of ideas where there's not really any grounding or basing to it, and they start going crazy with it. Conspiracy is very much real. And conspiracy is not something that has just happened out of the past, couple decades or past 100 years or anything like that. Conspiracy, you find the very first conspiracy in Scripture when you go back to Satan up in heaven conspiring against God and getting the angels to rebel and fall and all that stuff. That was a conspiracy. And so it is something that's in Scripture. It's not something that we just make up, and it's not a loop-de-doo type of crazy thing. It's absolutely something that is real. The second conspiracy that you find is in the Garden of Eden when Satan goes to Eve, and basically that's when we have the birth of the lie, the famous lie that we read about that people will believe, and that's where it comes from. That's the second conspiracy. And so when we look at conspiracies, they're very much real. Conspiracy is having one or multiple people conspiring against another, and that's a key element to all of this. And so we need to keep that in mind when we look at the crazy things happening around the world, because conspiracies are constantly in motion. There's not a day that goes by that there isn't a conspiracy in action in some way, shape, or form. And so when it comes to events that happen, there is nothing wrong, and I actually believe that it's the right way to do it, is to not immediately jump on board with the narrative, not immediately react emotionally, but to gather information and kind of sit back and see what comes from it. Because you will notice that in not all cases, it's important that we remember that, not all cases, but a lot of cases, there's some questions and some coincidences, which I don't believe exist, that tend to rear their heads that kind of make you scratch your chin, make you go, something doesn't sit right with this. And there's going to be some times where information comes about that it settles the dust, and you go, okay, that makes sense. And there's going to be some times where information comes about and goes, yeah, this isn't what they're telling us. And then there's going to be some times where you're going to get a convoluted mess of things, and you got to go, well, I don't think we're going to find out the truth about this at all. And you just got to be okay with that. You got to be willing to accept that. Again, it's not a case where you have to accept every single thing and come up to a conclusion every single time. But questioning things and looking at stuff, just skeptically, there's nothing wrong with doing just that. And along with that comes things like false flags. And there's a lot of people that still don't quite understand what a false flag is, because the moment that you say, is that a false flag? They start getting up in arms. So you're saying it was all fake. No, that's not what a false flag is. A false flag is an orchestrated event in order to propel a policy, an agenda, or something forward from it. And so a false flag very much means that people actually die. You look at 9/11, that was a false flag. People died. So when somebody says 9/11 was a false flag, people get up in arms and go, you're saying that was all fake, people didn't die? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they killed people in order to propel things forward. You look at something like the quote-unquote Trump assassination. That was a false flag. So you're saying the guy behind him didn't die from the gunshot? No, he probably did. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't orchestrated and fake in order to make something propel forward. These are conspiracies that eventually became false flags to push things forward. And so you got to be willing to look into those things, but you got to understand the definitions of how these things work too. There's nothing wrong with questioning the narrative and the stories that come out. With that, one of these is probably going to hurt some people's feelings. It's just going to how it goes. That's just how it goes because of the subject or the topic at hand. One of the people involved with it. Too bad. I'm not going to apologize for it. This stuff happens all the time. So if it hurts some feelings, just deal with it. The other thing is I'm not going to tell you which way to believe on any of this stuff because, again, in these cases, we don't really have an answer. I'm not here to tell you what to believe on it. I'm just going to give you the information of what I found with my chin-scratching skepticism, and then you can do with it what you will from there. But either way, I think these two events, the Bondi Beach shooting and the Brown shooting, there's something else tied to them from what I have seen. So let's go ahead and start with Bondi Beach. Jalapeno says, we have thick skin, Zach. My email inbox tells me that there's a lot of people who watch who don't. My man, I'm glad that you do, but there's a lot of people who watch that don't. Yeah. Anyways, let's go ahead and start with the Bondi Beach situation. So I'm sure a lot of you guys saw this, and you saw what was going on there. It's always a tragedy, to say the least. I'm not going to downplay that at all. But in Australia, the shooting, there was 15 dead. Police say father and son duo responsible. And so there was the first day of Hanukkah. They were celebrating it over there in Australia on Bondi Beach, which is there's a Jewish group that kind of adopted that the little region over there on Bondi Beach, and they were celebrating the event over there, and there was a mass shooting over there. It says a father-son duo opened fire on a crowd, which is still fascinating to me how they were able to get these weapons into Australia, which has some of the strongest gun laws in the world. So that's another thing to add to your doesn't make sense box. So the father and son duo opened fire in a crowd gathered at Sydney's Bondi Beach during a Jewish Hanukkah celebration, police said, killing 15 people in the worst shooting in Australia in almost 30 years. It says a 50-year-old father was killed at the scene while a 24-year-old son was in critical condition in the hospital and is expected to face criminal charges, police said in a news conference. It says about 40 people were hospitalized immediately following the attack, including 2 police officers who are in serious but stable condition, police said. The victims are between 10 and 87. Police said around 1,000 people had attended the targeted Jewish celebration, which was held in a small park off the beach. That park there is kind of adopted by a Jewish group in Australia. So that's why they do it there. So that's kind of the idea of what happened. That's the premise, kind of what happened. There's a lot of details and stuff that you guys can find in regards to it, but there's one particular thread that I found, which makes me question some of the things about this that I believe is worth having in our mind when it comes to this. Because we know we live in a corrupt world. We live in a world where there's conspiracy all the time, and they use these events, whether it's they use a crisis, they orchestrate a crisis, whatever you want to say, they utilize it in some type of way to push things forward. And it's possible that this is another one of those situations. The next article or the next couple things on my show might be a little hard to look at. I won't linger on there as much as I can, but I do need to show it for the element of the conspiracy of what we're going. So just a little thing if you're squeamish about some stuff. So this came out, this is from the Toronto Sun. And this dude, Warren Kinsella, is a friend of one of the people who was at the event. And he says, how we respond to Bondi Beach massacre matters. It says certain moments are really, really important, and not just for Jews. There are moments when indifference is no longer an option. And it says, that's the moment you wake up on Sunday morning and you pick up your phone and there's a photo of somebody you know covered in blood, his head, his face, his t-shirt, he's covered in it. You kind of got a glimpse of that picture. I'll show that again here in a second because it's important. It says the accompanying live post reads, human rights lawyer Arsen Ostrovsky shared a photo of himself after being shot at Bondi Beach in Sydney, and he survived. This is the moment where I went, something's not adding up. Because this guy, Arsen Ostrovsky, in the middle of the attack, he apparently gets shot in the head. He's bleeding like crazy. He's laying on the grass. There's gunshots going off in the middle of it. And his choice is to reach into his pocket, take his phone, take a picture of himself laying on the ground with his bloody head, and post it to Twitter, literally in the middle of the attack while it's happening. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm one of those people where if I just got shot in the head and there's gunmen happening, I'm not taking a selfie and posting it to Twitter. I'm getting out of Dodge. And so that's a major, chin-scratching moment where that's not making any sense. So I looked into this Arsen Ostrovsky dude to see what his background is. I told you, picture's not going to be pleasant. Just got to hang with me on this one. Oh, we already got somebody happening here. You people are always funny. Always funny to me. Where you're more interested in trying to correct pronunciation of a word that means absolutely nothing. And that's all you care about, rather than actually paying attention to anything else. Go have fun, read a dictionary by yourself. It's like, whatever. So let's get back to the topic at hand. And that picture right there is the one that he posted. He's literally, the event is still happening right now. I censored the headshot, so best I could. And he decided he was going to take a picture of that and post it out. And so here's a few other postings the following day after the event. This is a dude, Jonathan Greenblatt, and he's a writer who took the account of this dude and says, my physical scars from the attack will heal over time, but the memories of the horror I witnessed will never leave. Powerful op-ed from my friend Ostrovsky here, who moved with his family from Israel to Australia, hoping to respite from the violence. 2 weeks. He lived in Israel and then moved to Israel for 2 weeks. And then this happened, only to be shot in the head during the Bondi terrorist attack. I wish Arsen and all those injured a speedy and full recovery at the time when Australia has seen anti-Semitic surge nearly 5 times above pre-October 7th levels. We join in demanding the Australian government take comprehensive action to combat anti-Semitism and ensure the Jewish community is protected. Then he also posted this. This is Arsen Ostrovsky himself. He posted this, a screenshot from the New York Post, and he says, "Waking up to this." And we find out that Ostrovsky lived in Israel for 13 years, survived October 7th over in Israel, and then 2 weeks after moving to Australia, gets shot in the head at a Jewish event. So we've got a lot of that's a rare event. Could it happen? Maybe. That's a rare event. Says, I lived in Israel the last 13 years. We came only 2 weeks ago from with the Jewish community to fight anti-Semitism, to fight this bloodthirsty, ravaging hatred. And then he gets shot in the head. Then he also posted this. Says, I lived through October 7th. Never imagined I'd see the horror in Australia. Bullet grazed my head. Doctor said miracles survived, but will make recovery. Tonight's the first night of Hanukkah. The forces of darkness and hate will never triumph. We will prevail. The theme that you'll notice in regards to this is go and do a search of his name. Go look up Arsen Ostrovsky. You will find that he has been the main center point of interviews by almost every mainstream media company out there. They're interviewing this guy in particular. Why? Why this one guy? Why not one of the other of the 1,000 people that were there? It's a focus on this guy in particular. The guy who managed to make it through October 7th, and then 2 weeks after moving his family to Australia, gets shot in the head in another anti-Semitic attack. Or what's being portrayed as an anti-Semitic attack. We don't know. I'm just going to say it both ways. You'll notice that he's the guy that's getting interviewed everywhere. We also have this. It's from the Times of Israel. Bloodied but okay. Arsen Ostrovsky, who just moved from Israel to Sydney, describes blood gushing in front of me on Bondi Beach. Bandaged and his face covered in blood, Arsen Ostrovsky, an international, and this is where we start getting some more information, an international human rights lawyer who recently moved from Israel to Sydney to work with the local Jewish community. So we start to get a little bit more details. And it says, I lived in Israel the last 13 years, he continues. We came here only 2 weeks ago to work with the Jewish community to fight anti-Semitism, to fight this bloodthirsty, ravaging hatred. So I wanted to know a little bit more about his background. Why is this guy front and center? Why is this guy immediately getting shot in the middle of a terrorist attack? Why is he taking a selfie and posting it to Twitter? Why is he the front face of everything that's happening over there? Well, Arsen Ostrovsky, international human rights lawyer, recognized by Jerusalem Post as one of the top 50 Jewish leaders in the world. Okay. He spoke at the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee Subcommittee on the Middle East, North Africa, and Central Asia in 2024. Israel, Hamas, and Gaza, international law ramifications arising out of the October 7th Hamas massacre. Remarks by Arsen Ostrovsky, human rights attorney and CEO of the International Legal Forum. You can see him there. And getting a little bit deeper into it, he's a human rights lawyer, CEO at the International Legal Forum, senior fellow at Mizgov Institute for National Security and Zionist Strategy. Mizgov Institute for National Security and Zionist Strategy. He's also a graduate of the University of Wollongong for National Security and Zionist Strategy as well. Oh. So this dude has got some pull in the Israeli government and the national sphere as well. That's not all. This is the Institute for National Security and Zionist Strategy. This is Mizgov. This was written in 2024. Israel must exercise its full right of self-defense. And this is Arsen Ostrovsky, a leading human rights attorney and CEO of the International Legal Forum, an Israeli-based non-governmental organization and government coalition of lawyers combating anti-Semitism and standing up for Israel in the international legal arena. Recognized as an expert on international law and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and previously addressed the United Nations, U.S. Congress, British Parliament, and other high-level venues around the world. He frequently writes in leading publications, including Newsweek magazine, where he is a regular columnist. He's a propagandist. He's a propagandist. Now it's starting to make a little bit more sense why he would pull out his phone in the middle of the thing, take a picture and post it to Twitter. That would make sense why he's the front face of the event on all the mainstream media platforms giving interviews about everything. That would make sense why it's going all this way, why he would be in Australia 2 weeks before this event happens after surviving October 7th, which he wrote a ton of articles and gave a ton of interviews about. We also have this, Arsen Ostrovsky, new generation of Australian pro-Israel advocates. This is August 18th, 2019. The Zionist Council of New South Wales in Australia recently led an outstanding group of young leaders on a visit to Israel as part of their unique Yesh Israel program. This is him talking about it. The successful program, currently in its fourth year, is the only one of its kind in Australia that sends up a group of young Australian Zionist leaders, mostly post-university age, ranging from 22 to 31 years old, and who already hold a variety of professional occupations to Israel, the express purpose of which the program is to make them better advocates for Israel, whilst deepening Israel's special bond with Australia. If that's not enough, this is from Australian Jewish News. This is from this is about Arsen Ostrovsky, Australia's A-list advocate. A-list advocate. Former Sydney-sider Arsen Ostrovsky has made the case for Israel before the United Nations, parliaments, and halls of Congress around the world, as well as in international courts in The Hague. This is May of this year. From Bondi Beach to The Hague and UN, Arsen Ostrovsky has become a leading international human rights attorney and I don't even know how to pronounce that. I'm not even going to try. Israel advocate. Born in Odessa, Soviet Union, Ostrovsky and his family came to Australia as refuseniks in 1987, settling in Sydney's eastern suburbs. He now lives in Tel Aviv with his wife and 2 young daughters, but this was written before he moved, just 2 weeks before the shooting. Ostrovsky is the CEO of the International Legal Forum, an Israeli-based NGO and global coalition of leaders who has been at the forefront of combating anti-Semitism and standing up for Israel in the international legal arena, which has undertaken a new sense of urgency and purpose after the October 7th massacre. He is also part of the legal dream team assembled by famed attorney and professor Alan Dershowitz to combat the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. I told you Dershowitz's name would be popping up again. And that was the one that I go, yeah, I'm not buying this. Something's wrong here. Something's not right. What is the perfect way to push your propaganda? And in this case, it's the anti-Semitism fight. I'll address that in a second. The anti-Semitism thing around the world. Then by one, having this dude not only survive October 7th, but then survive another one of those anti-Semitic attacks in Australia, and then him be the front face, the main face, giving interviews about it. Especially when he's connected to all of these people. It says, together with partners in the United States, the ILF also initiated a number of groundbreaking counterterrorism lawsuits in American courts, including connected to the UN RWA, Columbia University, and a case now for the U.S. Supreme Court over the Palestinians' Authority pay-for-slay policy. A frequent commentator on TV and some of the world's leading publications, Ostrovsky is also one of the leading voices in the war of narratives for Israel online, where his posts reach tens of millions of people each month, including over 1 billion since October 7th. It's not all. He has been recognized with a number of prestigious awards, including the Nefesh Bonai Zion Prize for Outstanding Israel Advocacy. In 2022, he was named by the Algemeiner as one of the top 100 people in the world positively influencing Jewish life. This past year, the Jerusalem Post called him one of the most influential Zionist leaders, while in January, he was recognized by Israel's Knesset with the Voices of Iron Award as one of the leading advocates for Israel since October 7th. So again, this is just a situation here, just a case where I'm not telling you what to believe, but there's something stinky about all of this. Now, addressing the anti-Semitism thing, because I know there's going to be some people going, so you're saying that there's no anti-Semitism? No, that's not what I'm saying. Do I believe that there's an increasing rise in anti-Semitism around the world? Yes, I do. But I'm also one of those people where I can recognize that there's multiple places that it's coming from. It's not coming from one thing like many people claim it is. One, we have the issue of religions that have the written in their rules that they must exterminate the Jewish people. We know that that's happening. Two, we also know spiritually, and Scripture confirms this, that the world will indeed begin to back away from Israel and begin to hate them for one reason or another. There's multiple reasons why they begin to hate them. We are seeing that happen too. So we're seeing multiple facets there as well. There's also a third one that I don't believe is recognized all too often, except from the secular world, which I do believe is playing a part in this. I believe the political Zionist group, the Edomites, the synagogue of Satan, who's in control of political Zionism, has brought a lot of anti-Semitism against themselves because of the things that they have done through propaganda, through the Mossad, and through many political actions that they have done. And so I believe that there's multiple facets to why the anti-Semitism is growing in the world. And if you're willing to see what the secular world is saying, that third one, that last one I just mentioned, is actually a heavy influence, because that's where the whole idea of blaming the Jews for everything is coming from, is because of a lot of the actions that they have been exposed doing. That's a hard one for a lot of people to digest, but that doesn't make it any less reality on top of it. But when it comes to this particular event, this dude is telling me that there's something fishy that happened on that beach, and it's not organic, like a lot of people are saying that it is. It's not an organic hatred that drove it. I believe that there was something else to it. If that's not enough, just to kind of put the cherry on top of everything, there was a video. Somebody recorded a video on their phone during the event. I don't know exactly who it was, but somebody was recording an event or recording the event. And it's one of the videos that was heavily shared on social media. It just got passed around, millions and millions and millions of views. But there's one particular thing that I believe is so staged, I can't even begin to tell you, and I think you guys will see it. In Australia, at a Jewish event with about 1,000 people, somehow during this event, somebody decided to take a video of what's going on, and they just happened to be laying right next to a guy wearing a Make America Great Again hat. And that was front and center in one of the main videos that was being shared around social media. That's one of those situations where I saw that and go, you can't make this up. Is it possible that somebody was just wearing a MAGA hat in the Australia Jewish event? It's possible. I just can't necessarily buy that as organic, to be honest. But that's my personal thing, especially with the whole Ostrovsky dude, then having that there. Something's a little weird. Yeah, Doc, that's actually a pretty good way of putting it. It seems like this group is trying to advance need to fight anti-Semitism. Yeah, how do you continue to push something forward like that? The need for it. You create events. That's something that they've done all throughout history. Doesn't matter what it is. Countries have been doing that for. We need the war on drugs. Why is that? Well, because we created the drug trafficking scenario. We need the war on terrorism. Why do we need that? Because we created the very terrorists that we're doing. That's the thing, is you create the problem and then you offer the solution. That's how war, that's all wars. Well, we need a war. Okay, let's create one. Okay, well, now we're in a war, so we need to produce things in order to stop the war that we created. It's the same thing. It's perpetualism. It's how they move stuff forward. So that's a good observation, Doc. Good call on that one. Because that's how I see it too. Desiree, yeah, that's bizarre. Why does the MAGA hat just happen to be there at the exact same time? And not only is the MAGA hat there, he's not like off in the distance or running or anything like that. He happens to be standing or laying down right next to the dude who's taking a video. And he hits the MAGA hat multiple times. He goes from one way and then goes to the other. It's, it's just, no. All right. So that's one. That's as far as the Bondi Beach situation. So again, I'm not going to tell you which way or another. I'm just saying there's some questions that I have looking at the evidence. I think if you're willing to see it and accept it, you probably have some questions yourself. So do with that information, I don't know. Go look further into it if you want to. Don't. If you don't want to, that's fine. But yeah, I just think there's something fishy about that. Let's move on to the second one. We're good on time. Let's move on to the second one. This one, there's a lot more to this one. I'll say that. There's some depth and some timing situations on this that really would make somebody go, yeah. So let's take a look. We got this. I'm sure a lot of you guys heard about the Brown University shooting. It says motive sought after suspect in Brown University shooting. MIT professors killing found dead, officials say. So let's see what to know about the investigations into the Brown University shooting and killing of an MIT professor. The suspect in the December 13th mass shooting on the campus of Brown University was found dead by suicide. That is always, I don't care who you are, or if you've been doing this, looking into this stuff for years, or you are brand new, this is the first time you see it. The moment that you see that this person that they're claiming did something committed suicide, that is immediately alarm bells going off that I need to look into this. The moment you see suicide, it's time to start looking at something, because it's amazing how many of these things they're just, I'm going to go do this thing, this random thing with no motivation attached, and then I'm just going to go somewhere and off myself. Yeah, no. But it says found dead by suicide Thursday night in a storage unit in Salem. In a storage unit. Sure. In a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire, authorities say. It says Valente is also believed to be responsible for the shooting death of an MIT professor 2 days later in Brookline, Massachusetts. Federal prosecutors say late Thursday. So this dude, what they're claiming, the narrative is saying, is he just decided he's going to go to Brown University, shoot up the school, and then 2 days later go to this one dude's apartment, kill him, just this random guy, and then he's going to go drive to a storage unit in Salem and then off himself. That's the narrative that we're being told. That's what we're being. Not buying it, man. I'm a little frugal with my money, but I'm still not buying it. I'm just not. Let's keep going. Let's see what else we can get from here. You don't say. You don't say. License plate readers played major role in identifying and locating suspected gunmen. Which license plate reader, you ask? Authorities on Thursday said Flock Safety automated license plate cameras helped them identify and track the suspect in Brown University shooting and the killing of an MIT professor. They also say it helped them connect the two crimes to the suspect. You can't make this up. You couldn't write a better script than this. Okay, how do you guys want to play this? I can see it now. They're just sitting around the tables. How do you guys want to play this? I've got an idea. Let's take this dude. We'll send him to the school. He'll shoot up the school. Then, not immediately, not the next day, no, 2 days later, we'll have him go kill this random professor from a different school in his apartment. And then we'll send him to Salem, where he'll off himself in a storage unit. Okay? How do we find him? Hear me out. Flock license plate readers. I'll save you guys some time. Next time, hire Tarantino. He'll give you a better script than that. It says Flock Safety has faced criticism and pushback over its technology and data storage practices. The city of Cambridge, Massachusetts recently ended its contract with the company following public outcry. How much you want to bet that they're going to sign back up for that one? Flock spokesperson said, however, told CBS News Boston on Friday that its role in the search for a suspect demonstrates the intended use of its products. This is the perfect advertisement. When you have tools and technology like Flock Safety that can really safely be used by local law enforcement in collaboration with other departments, even across state lines, it is possible to bring these tragedies to a conclusion, Flock spokesperson Josh Thomas said. Perfect advertisement. Let's see, is there anything else? Yeah, there's some more. State Department indefinitely pauses diversity visa program after Brown shooting. This is a situation where they decided we've got like 5 ducks and we need to take all 5 ducks out at the same time. And they're doing it. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Friday ordered an indefinite pause to a diversity visa lottery program the White House says was used by the Brown University shooting suspect to come to the United States, CBS News has learned. The move comes after Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced late Thursday night that she had directed U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services to pause green cards cases under the same program. Noem said that the suspected shooter, Claudio Manuel Neves Valente, a Portuguese national, was issued a green card and entered the U.S. through the program in 2017. So let's knock that one out too, the immigration stuff. Is there anything else? The suicide. An autopsy report released Friday shows suspect Claudio Manuel Valente is estimated to have died on Tuesday, December 16th, one day after the shooting of MIT professor Nuno Lorio. We're going to hang on to that name because he's going to play a big part in this. And 2 days before authorities found Valente's body in a storage unit in Salem, New Hampshire. He died by suicide as a result of a gunshot wound to the head, the New Hampshire Office of Chief Medical Examiner found. I think that's it from this, yeah. So right off the bat, there's just so much there that's so revealing that tells me that this is not organic. It's just not. Let's keep going. There's some more. Keep an open mind. Again, you're one of those people where it's like you're looking at that. No, I can believe all that. Okay, well, let's just keep going. For 2 Brown University students, school shooting wasn't their first. Brown Jr. Mia Tureta was injured in a California school shooting, and sophomore Zoe Weissman was in class next door during the Parkland, Florida high school massacre. So not one, but 2 of the students at Brown University managed to survive school shootings in separate states for a first time. So 2 of them have now gone through 2 school shootings. I kind of did some looking around at stats at the odds of this actually being legit, of having not 1 but 2 people attending one school that has a school shooting, but then being a part of another school shooting in 2 separate states prior to this. And they're saying it's 1 in 100-something thousand for just one person to do that, but then to do it this way for 2 students and stuff like that, they're saying it's 1 in 3-something million for this to actually happen. There's some more to this. Let's just keep going. Amid the scores of fearful and worried students following Saturday's shooting at Brown University were 2 who have been here before. Mia Tureta, 21, was shot in the 2019 mass shooting at Saugus High School, about 40 miles north of Los Angeles. And Zoe Weissman, 20, attended West Glades Middle School adjacent to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. So this one, let's just knock this one out first real quick. Zoe Weissman, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Parkland shooting in Florida. College student, 20, survived Brown University tragedy years after Parkland High School mass shooting. I'm really angry. Says a college sophomore survived the shooting tragedy at Brown University years after she was a student during the mass shooting at a high school in Parkland, Florida in 2018. Zoe Weissman was at the Rhode Island-based college on Saturday, December 13th, when a gunman opened fire. Years prior, Weissman, 20, was a Parkland middle school student when gunman Nicholas Cruz killed 17 people and injured 18 people at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Now, if you guys remember the Parkland situation, the Parkland shooting that happened there, that's the one where the famous David Hogg came from. Do you guys remember David Hogg? If you guys don't remember David Hogg's the one who, well, I'll just pull this up. He's now the DNC vice chair. He was the one that was one of the high schoolers that came out attacking gun stuff. He was going with gun control. He was a part of the March for Our Lives thing. He was like the dude that was the I'm not saying he put it on. I'm saying that he was the face of it. They're using this guy. And he was part of that Parkland thing, but the story is skewed because the reports coming out in the media regarding David Hogg, where this Zoe Weissman person was at during the Parkland shooting and then was involved with Brown, but David Hogg, the reports that came out during the time said that he was at school and survived the attack. He was there, and he was, a victim of what happened there. But yet there's a video which you can still find. I just found it yesterday. I'm not going to play it just because I don't know what YouTube might do with it. But there's a video of him being interviewed just after the event with several other people. And in his own words, he said it during that interview that he wasn't even at the school. He was at home a couple miles away, or a couple blocks, miles, I can't remember exactly, but he was away. And he told the story about how he heard the reports, immediately grabbed his camera, got on his bike, and rode to the school so he could be a journalist and record everything that's happening and get interviews and everything. That's him in his own words. And then that got scrubbed, and the mainstream media reports that he survived the attack. And then now he was pushing the March for Our Lives stuff, and he was a part of the campaigns against gun rights. He was an advocate for gun control. He's now the vice chair of the DNC and all that stuff. Not to mention his dad was an ex-FBI guy who dealt with crisis situations and was also a participant in an organization called Cubic Simulations, where he helped in the division of shooting simulation training videos. Sounds to me like that was all theater, orchestrated in some type of way. And then you take the fact that one of the people that managed to survive that shooting just so happens to be at Brown University when another shooting happens with another person who's surviving their own second school shooting, who was in a California school at that time. That's a lot. That's a lot to just accept. That's not even taking into account the timing of the shooting, and then the killing of the professor, and then the suicide in the storage unit, and then the flock safety advertisements from it, and then the shutdown of the diversity visas. And I mean, it's starting to stack up. Let's pile some more on, shall we? You guys hanging with me? I hope you guys are hanging with me. This is October 22nd, 2024, that this was released by Mia Tretta, the other survivor who managed to make it through 2 school shootings. This is on Brown's website. This is drawing on her experience as a school shooting survivor to advance gun safety. Wounded in a school shooting in California in 2019, the Brown sophomore has dedicated herself to preventing gun violence nationwide, harnessing her education at Brown to forge a career in advocacy. So she's kind of like the next David Hogg in terms of trying to push the gun control and all this type of stuff as well. And there she is with Joe Biden. What's that all about? Well, let's take a look, shall we? Brown University shooting was second campus tragedy for former Saugus High School student. Mia Tretta, a 21-year-old student at Brown University, was injured in the 2019 shooting that killed 2 classmates at Saugus High School. This is a 21-year-old Brown University student who was injured in 2019 shooting at a high school north of Los Angeles said that she remains resolved to speak for victims of gun violence following the 2 campus attacks nearly 3,000 miles and 6 years apart. 6 years later, Tretta, now a junior at Brown University, was part of a frightening lockdown when a gunman opened fire December 13th on the Rhode Island campus. And Tretta said she chose Brown because she believed its smaller size and enrollment of about 12,000 students in the community of Providence would make it a safer place. So you could take this in a way of trying to perpetuate even the smaller schools aren't safe. You can kind of take that from that if you're willing to look at it from that angle. It says, here at Brown, I felt safer than I did at other places, Tretta said. It felt like, of course, it won't happen again. It already did, but here we are. Tretta is one of 2 Brown students who were part of a previous school campus attacks. 20-year-old Zoe Weissman, who was in her university dorm Saturday during the Brown shooting, attended a middle school next to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, where a former student opened fire in 2018, killing 17. Tretta, 15 at the time of Saugus High School shooting, became a firearms safety advocate. She was part of a public education campaigns that addressed the dangers of so-called ghost guns and their proliferation. Tretta was a junior in high school when she introduced President Biden before he signed the federal legislation to address ghost guns. She introduced California Governor Newsom when he signed a state law that allowed private individuals to sue people who illegally make or sell assault weapons or ghost gun components. She also interned at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, helping to organize the ATF's inaugural Gun Violence Survivors Summit. What a perfect opportunity for her to be at another school shooting after all of that. Kind of like perfect timing for the Arsen Ostrovsky dude to not only survive October 7th, but then to attend something in Australia after 2 weeks of moving there and then get shot in the head and then use that in his proponents as well. We take a look. This is from her social media profile. That's her picture. Gun Sense voter. Her headline or header thing image is her and Biden. She says, Brown University sophomore, school shooting survivor, gun violence prevention advocate, community builder researcher, be the change. And then this is pinned at the top of her thing. This is from 2023. Last year I was invited to the White House to introduce Biden. I wish I was invited for winning a spelling bee or my GPA. I was invited because I was shot in all capitals at school, and I now push every day for a safer America. Fight for the things you believe in. The good people will listen. Take with that what you will. I'll just leave it at that. Again, I'm not here to tell you which way to go, which way to believe. I'm not here to necessarily. I should have started out with this. You will have more questions than answers tonight when it comes to this. That's just how it's going to be. But in my opinion, in some situations, being in a place of having more questions about an event than answers is actually giving you more information than not. And I think in these 2 cases that we're going over now, I believe the fact that we have more questions than answers actually gives us more answers than if we just believe the narratives that we're being told. But that's my position. That's my opinion. And that's that. But this is where things start getting much, much deeper and much more coincidental in regards to this. That's the Brown side. What about the MIT professor? Let's take a look, because I think this was possibly the main objective, was to take this dude out. MIT professor murder, no obvious suspects or theories. This is before, obviously, the finding of the dude in the Salem storage unit. It says nearly 2 days after a Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor was shot and killed at his home in upscale Brookline, Massachusetts, investigators have no obvious suspects and no working theories of the case, according to multiple sources briefed on the investigation. Nuno F.G. Lorio, 47, was found at his home or at his house on Monday night. He was taken to the hospital with gunshot wounds and was pronounced dead on Tuesday. says the university said Lorio was a faculty member in the departments of nuclear science and engineering and physics, as well as the director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center. This is the key, I think, when it comes to this. So let's dive a little deeper into who this guy is, shall we? Nuno Lorio, professor and director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center, dies at 47. In his 10 years at MIT, Lorio helped illuminate the physics occurring at the center of fusion vacuum chambers and at the edges of the universe. This is a lauded theoretical physicist and fusion scientist. I'll explain why this is so important in just a second, so hang with me. Lorio joined MIT's faculty in 2016. His research addressed complex problems lurking at the center of fusion vacuum chambers and at the edges of the universe. Lorio's research at MIT advanced scientists' understanding of plasma behavior, including turbulence, and uncovered the physics behind astronomical phenomenon like solar flares. He was the Hermann Feshbach Professor of Physics at MIT and was named director of the Plasma Science and Fusion Center in 2024, though his contributions to fusion science and engineering began far before that. His research on magnetized plasma dynamics, magnetic field amplification, and confinement and transport in fusion plasmas helped inform the design of fusion devices that could harness the energy of fusing plasmas, bringing the dream of clean, near-limitless fusion power closer to reality. Again, just hang with me. I'll explain what all this means in just a second. It says Nuno was a champion for plasma physics within the physics department, a wonderful and engaging colleague, and an inspiring and caring mentor for graduate students working in plasma science. His recent work on quantum computing algorithms for plasma physics simulations was a particularly exciting new scientific direction. Lorio majored in physics at the Instituto Superior Técnico, the IST in Portugal, and obtained a PhD in physics at Imperial College in 2005. He conducted postdoctoral work at the Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory for the next 2 years before moving to the UK AEA Column Center for Fusion Energy in 2007. Lorio returned to IST in 2009, where he was a researcher at the Institute of Plasmas and Nuclear Fusion until coming to MIT in 2016. On other fronts, Lorio's work in astrophysics helped reveal fundamental mechanisms of the universe. He put forward the first theory of turbulence in pair plasmas, which differ from regular plasmas and may be abundant in space. The work was driven in part by unprecedented observations of a binary neutron star merger in 2018. Okay, what does all that mean? Because I know there's probably a lot of people I just lost in regards to that. What this dude was doing was creating carbon-free, carbon-free, clean energy through fusion, nuclear fusion. He was basically creating the ability to take nuclear plasma, slam them together to create nuclear fusion energy, stabilize it, because that's where the problem comes in, because the moment you start doing that, chaos starts happening. He's talking about specifically the turbulent side of it. He was able to stabilize the energized plasma and transfer that into power, to electricity. He was one of the main dudes in the world. This dude is one of the top guys in the world that was managing to figure out how to stabilize nuclear fusion and put it into a reactor. And he just happened to be randomly killed in his home by this one dude who just got done shooting up Brown University. And they took him out. What are the odds? What are the odds? This isn't even like nuclear energy. Like, you know how we have the nuclear plants and stuff like that's running. No, this is fusion, nuclear fusion energy of taking energized plasma. It's basically the best way to describe it. Take a star from our solar system, put it in a box, and power an entire country. That's what he was doing. And he just got killed. Randomly. By the dude who shot up Brown University. Three days after this dude was killed. 3 days after this dude was killed. Trump media announces $6 billion merger with fusion power developer TAE, which Nuno sat on the board of. Trump media announces a $6 billion merger with fusion startup TAE Technologies, signaling a pivot from social media to clean energy and AI infrastructure. Trump's social media company, 3 days after the crazy killing of one of the guys who sits on the board of this TAE Technologies, who was helping create nuclear fusion reactors, happens to switch from social media to nuclear power. Do with that what you will. Trump Media and Technology Group, TMTG, the company behind Truth Social, announced on Thursday that it will merge with fusion power developer TAE Technologies in an all-stock deal valued at $6 billion. Under the agreement, shareholders of TMTG and TAE will each own roughly half the combined company. The deal is expected to close in mid-2026, pending regulatory approvals. If completed, the merger would create, according to the firms, one of the world's first publicly traded fusion power companies. The merger pairs TAE's cutting-edge fusion technology with TMTG's financial resources. TAE, a California-based startup backed by Google, Chevron, and Goldman Sachs, all three companies are supporters of Trump, has spent over 25 years developing next-generation fusion reactors. The company has safely operated 5 reactors and holds more than 1,600 patents. Devin Nunes, TMTG's CEO, called the merger a big step forward towards a revolutionary technology that will cement America's global energy dominance for generations. He added that fusion power could lower energy prices, boost supply, ensure America's AI supremacy, revive our manufacturing base, and bolster national defense. All the things that Trump continues to promise that he's doing. Recent breakthroughs have prepared us to accelerate capital deployment to commercialize our fusion technologies, said TAE CEO Michael Binderbauer. In a statement, we're excited to identify our first site and begin deploying this revolutionary technology that we expect to fundamentally transform America's energy supply. Coincidental timing, don't you say? So, I want to paint a picture real quick. So we understand where we just went, because this is probably like, what? Out of left field, am I right? We started with a shooting by this random dude at Brown University that had not one, but 2 people who already survived 2 other infamous school shootings in separate states, and they managed to survive that one. Then, 2 days after that, the same dude who shot up that school managed to get to this dude's house, this particular guy's house, this MIT professor's house, to kill him. Then the next day, drive to Salem and kill himself in a storage unit. They only managed to find him because they used flock license plate reader cameras. Then Marco Rubio used that opportunity to shut down a diversity visa program, which is a part of that whole thing. Then on top of that, 3 days after that professor's killing, Trump Media, his social media company, announced that they're doing a $6 billion merger with a fusion power developer, TAE, who that MIT professor was helping part of that group, along with MIT, to build nuclear fusion reactors. Yeah. Two things that you'd probably look at completely separate events appear to have a connection. I know, right? This is why I think it's always good to, when you see stuff happen, wait a few days. I always go by the 72-hour rule. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion. When something big happens, just wait 72 hours and collect the information that comes. You'll usually find a lot of information and things that follow. This just happened to fall immediately in that 72-hour rule. If I can recommend anybody who is a watcher and doing stuff, I know everybody out there likes to do the, I got to be first. It's the headline. It gets me more clicks and stuff like that. I got to be first. The best approach, in my opinion, 72-hour rule. You'll be amazed that you'll find out that either that headline just goes away because it's not really anything, or something else comes out and it gives you much more information in regards to something. That's my rule, at least when it comes to it. 72-hour rule. Because, I mean, come on, honestly. So if we continue to take a look at this, this is the TAE Collaborators Board. It's got like General Atomics on there, Google's there, ITER's on there, and stuff like that. You can clearly see Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, is a collaborator on there, along with a few other colleges and universities and stuff. Yeah, you guys can go check that out. And by the way, World Economic Forum is a contributor of TAE as well. Yeah. Do with that what you will as well. Let's keep going. This is where things start going haywire. Like I said, probably going to be left with more questions than answers, but I'll do my best to kind of give you as much information on this as I can. This is December 2nd, 2025. Before the announcement of the Trump deal, before the MIT professor was killed, TAE Technologies and UKAEA partner, which, by the way, we know that professor was a part of the UKAEA for quite a few years as well. We read that in his profile. They partnered to commercialize fusion technology. Joint venture to develop neutral beams for fusion and non-fusion applications, creating high-skilled jobs and establishing critical supply chain. This is TAE Technologies, a leading U.S. private fusion energy firm with over 25 years at the forefront of scientific innovation. Today announced a bilateral reciprocal investment commitment with the United Kingdom's National Fusion Laboratory, the UK Atomic Energy Authority, to commercialize TAE's proprietary particle accelerator technology for the global market. This is fascinating, especially since we know that the United States is backing away from the UK, but we know that deal was in the works for a while, so they knew about this, but yet they still did it. Just hang on. At the center of this landmark partnership is the new joint venture TAE Beam UK, a collaborative entity that will harness the partners' collective scientific leadership, commercialization experience, and market innovation to develop this highly versatile advanced particle accelerator technology, beginning with neutral beams for fusion. The venture aims to design, develop, and ultimately manufacture and service neutral beams for a wide range of fusion approaches, as well as adapt the accelerator technology for state-of-the-art cancer therapeutics and other applications like food safety and homeland security. So they made a deal with the UK about a half a month, 15 days or so, before the MIT professor who's involved with TAE Technologies and has a history with the UKE was killed. And then 3 days later, TAE announces a partnership with Trump Media. Interesting. We got this. It says Trump Media to merge with fusion energy firm in $6 billion deal. It says the statement said that the combined company planned to begin constructing the world's first utility-scale fusion power plant next year, with further plants to follow. Under the merger, both firms will have an equal 50% share in ownership after the deal is completed, which is expected by mid-2026, pending regulatory and shareholder approvals. The combined company will have a 9-member board, including Trump Media's current chief executive, Devin Nunes, who will be co-chief executive of the new firm, and the president's son, Donald Trump Jr. Donald Trump Jr. will be on the board for Trump Media and TAE, running it. TAE Technologies provides technology for energy storage and power delivery systems for batteries and electric vehicles. Its umbrella organizations, TAE Life Sciences, develops technologies and drugs for treating cancer patients. Keep it going. The Trump family deal with fusion energy firm adds to complicated UK-US ties. TAE Technologies has already agreed joint venture with UK government's atomic laboratory. The UK is claiming that they had no idea that TAE was making a deal with Trump Media. They say that they were left in the dark. They had no idea. They thought it was going to be exclusive between them. And then this came out and blindsided them. I think that the Trump Media Group knew about this beforehand, this whole UK thing, knew about it beforehand, bought in, because that's only a technology deal between them and the UK. Trump Media is partnering with them, which means all of the UK Atomic Energy Authority's information, their data, is now going to be collected by Trump Media. I believe that this was a deal to screw over the UK, which fits right in line with the United States backing away from Europe, and tends to give a little bit more weight to the possible Core 5 plan, which is the United States, Russia, China, India, and Japan. That's how I'm kind of looking at it. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's how I'm kind of looking at it. It says Donald Trump's family has gone into business with the British government, adding a fresh dimension to an already complicated relationship. The twist in the deal is that TAE Technologies, which is backed by U.S. tech group Google and oil major Chevron, this month struck a joint venture with the UK government's atomic laboratory. It touted the partnership as evidence of the technology prosperity deal, which the United States just canceled, that was signed by London and Washington in September, but has since been suspended amid U.S. concerns over progress on trade talks. One official said that the government had not been aware of the discussions between TMTG and TAE Technologies at the time the decision was made. If this is true, if this tidbit is true, that the UK government had no idea that there was a discussion between Trump Media and TAE Technologies, then I do believe that this has everything to do with the United States backdooring the UK and getting the biggest one over on them while collecting all of their data regarding their atomic energy. And it was planned to only be announced after TAE did a deal with the UK. If that bit's true, this could bring all manner of headaches, as spending government money on a firm associated with Trump will be unpopular with British voters, said Rob Ford, professor of political science at the University of Manchester. But attempts to back out of the deal may provoke anger and even lawsuits from the notorious litigious Trump. He added, now that Trump and TAE are together, if the UK tries to back out of the deal, that would be breach of contract and Trump can sue them for it. Which I believe adds even more weight to the Core 5 situation. If you don't know what that Core 5 situation is, go watch the video that I put out about it just a couple days ago. Trump set up TMTG to run his Truth Social app after being banned from major social networks after the Capitol Hill attack of January 6, 2021. Its board includes FBI Director Kash Patel and his son Donald Trump Jr., who will also serve on the board of the new entity announced on Tuesday. Or as the Britons would say, Tuesday. So what you guys think? Pretty interesting, right? A lot of coinky dink. Now I know there's some people who no matter what, they could look at all that and go, nope, I believe the narrative. That's fine. You have every right to do that. I don't think that's very wise. Just like I don't think people who look at that and go, well, obviously this is the reason why all this happens, and without any way of verifying anything, I don't think that's very wise either. I think it's very wise to understand that there's a lot of conspiracy at play in multiple facets. Whether you're looking at the Bondi Beach situation or you're looking at the Brown and MIT situation. Keep in mind, when it comes to killing off people who manage to find miraculous energy breakthroughs, that it's actually something that happens quite often. If you guys remember this dude, this was back in 2004. Eugene Malov. I don't know if you guys know this dude. He was a science writer who for the past 15 years had dedicated himself to advancing the case for cold fusion. He was also randomly murdered in an apparent robbery. Malov was 56 and was the founder and president of the New Energy Foundation. And basically, he was one of the people who also worked at MIT, who was working on cold fusion, managed to find a few breakthroughs that a lot of other scientists didn't. Those scientists hated his guts, and then all of a sudden he was murdered. And his stuff disappeared. His cold fusion stuff disappeared. He's not the only one. I'm sure a lot of you guys know this dude, too. Go back even further to Nikola Tesla. You guys remember Tesla? His quest for free energy? In the early 1900s, Nikola Tesla, one of the history's greatest inventors, developed a groundbreaking technology that promised to revolutionize the way we think about energy. Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower was not just a radio tower, it was intended to be a wireless power station. And this was actually much more than cold fusion or nuclear fusion because his was actually free, unlimited energy. There was no fuel needed for it to run. His was basically a perpetual motion machine for energy. You can get to the details of Tesla. I kind of went over that a little bit in the Aliens and Demons series. Nikola Tesla was one of the people who was getting fed demonic intelligence through the Council of Nine, which is basically demons showing themselves or revealing themselves as aliens from deep outer space. And so you look at somebody like him, he basically managed to get the same technological blueprints for his stuff as did another guy, I can't ever remember his name, in Arizona at the same time, who was building the Integratron. And it was the same technology that both of them were establishing at the same time. Neither one met each other. Their blueprints almost matched identical because they were both being in contact with the Council of Nine, which is demons. And both of them managed to have their information taken, their financial stuff removed, and their lives lost by political people to obtain the information from them. Similar to what I believe happened with Malov for cold fusion and what just happened with the MIT dude for nuclear fusion. What's this dude? What? George Van Tassel. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, George Van Tassel was the dude in Arizona, or is it Arizona? Yeah, it's Arizona. The Integratron. Council of Nine and Demons. Yeah, go take a look at my Aliens and Demons series on my YouTube channel. I go over all that stuff. But yeah, Tesla was a part of that too. He was trying to create the Wardenclyffe Tower. Then there was the situation. He was backed by JP Morgan. We know about JP Morgan. All of a sudden, all of his money was vanished, and he basically lived alone and poor in a New York hotel until he died. Then there's a situation of him creating, quote unquote, time traveling machine, which is what the Integratron was supposed to be, but Van Tassel was never able to finish it. And I don't think Tesla was able to finish it either. And if you guys know anything about that, it's also Nikola Tesla is also connected to the Trump family, because John Trump, Donald's uncle, was the one who was also an MIT scientist who was involved with X-rays, radar research, and also generators and energy. And he was connected to Nikola Tesla because he was brought in to inspect Tesla's blueprints and research that all of a sudden disappeared, and nobody has any idea what happened to it. There's been many cases of these people who managed to create energy stuff, who their research disappears, their lives destroyed, often killed, because what they're creating would create devastation to the bankers and to the elites who control things, and in this case, energy. You think the people who control the world's energy of gas and coal and all this stuff want some random schmuck to invent something that would bring down their entire empire? It's like the big pharma companies don't want the cure for cancer to come out either. Because a lot of people are saying they're still trying to invent the cure for cancer. Come on. You're telling me that they haven't invented that and they just haven't released it? Because it would bring down the entire pharmaceutical company as well. You can't do that. You can't do that. So I always love people that try and type things to sound smarter than they actually are, when all they're doing is just voicing their ungrounded opinion. Funny. Anyways. Well, again, I'm not here to tell you what to believe when it comes to the conspiracy stuff. I'm just here to tell you what I found. And so do with that information however you want to do with it, whether you want to dive deeper into it and look into it further. If you go, nah, that's enough for me to go, yeah, okay. There's obviously something more to it, and I'm willing to accept that. Or if you're just somebody who's going to reject it, whatever you want to do with it. But the important thing that I hope we realize, even through all this, looking through all the little details and everything that we just went through, the important thing to remember is conspiracies are real. And the first and second conspiracy that we ever see in history involves Satan with the rebellion against God in heaven and the introduction of the lie to Eve in the garden. And so any Christian who says that conspiracies aren't real better do a little bit of homework, because if conspiracies aren't real, then the very foundation of your faith through Jesus Christ is shattered. Because if Satan didn't commit the first and second conspiracy, the need for Christ to come and give salvation to us wouldn't exist. That's always my argument for Christians who don't want to believe in conspiracy. What's your faith based upon then? Your foundation for your faith is gone. Something to think about. and research further if you want to do on that too. But if you're one of those people that doesn't know Jesus, if you don't have salvation in Christ Jesus, he offers you the free gift through his gospel, which is as simple as ABC. A is you admit that you're a sinner, the act of repentance, the changing of mind, metanoia, turning from self to Christ. Everything in this world is about self. Every religion, the mystery religion, all religions connected to it is about self. It's all about trying to reach God or trying to become God. One stands alone from them all. And it's not a religion, it's a relationship. It's Christ who says, I came to you. I reached out to you. I called you. And it's the one that stands alone because it's not about us trying to reach God. It's God reaching to us. And it's through metanoia, changing from self to Christ, which allows us to understand why we need Jesus. How can we believe in Jesus Christ as our Savior if we don't know why we need him? And so it's through that repentance that allows true belief in Jesus Christ. We believe that Jesus Christ is the one and only begotten Son of God, that he came down 100% man, 100% God, the God-man, the one and only. There is no other. And he lived the perfect sinless life, which means he was the only one qualified to carry the sins of the world upon his shoulders to the cross, where he took our place, took my place upon that cross. He was crucified and he died. But because there's power in the blood of Jesus Christ, he defeated death and rose again on the third day. For all who believe in him shall not perish, but live forever in his presence and in his glory. The glory is his. He did it. There's nothing we can do to earn, nothing we can do to buy, nothing we can do to transact. There's nothing that we can do to add. There's nothing that we can do to obtain salvation, because it is through Jesus Christ, his finished work upon the cross, and his spilled blood. When we place our faith in Christ, we place it in Christ, we place it in his work, and we place it in his blood. And see, as we call upon the Lord, when we receive salvation, we are indwelt with the Holy Spirit and we receive an incredibly supernatural gift of prayer that allows us to literally enter into the throne room of God and speak to our Father at any moment of any day. We can use it, but there's something so incredibly supernatural powerful that our minds just can't comprehend it. But we are able to do that. And we are called to never cease praying to God. And we say, Lord God, thank you. Thank you for allowing us to get together to talk about these things, to be watchmen, to fellowship with other watchmen and believers and followers of Christ. And we thank you for allowing us to get together and to praise and look forward to Jesus Christ. We thank you for your Son, for coming and giving his life so that we may live. And God, we pray, Lord, allow us to see through the deception. Allow us to be aware of the dark conspiracies that are surrounding this world that are obviously led by Satan in order to propel your prophecy forward. And give us the strength and the boldness to speak the name of Jesus in the darkest of places. We pray, Lord Jesus, please come soon. Maranatha, in your holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. It's been a minute since we've done a conspiracy episode, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I mean, as much as you can enjoy it. You know what I mean. It's not so much fun enjoying, the devastation of people and stuff like that, but you know what I mean. Before I stick my foot further into my mouth, let's just go ahead and move on to some questions. What do we got in here? Let's see here. Victoria, I think I already answered this question, but I'll answer it again. Important question. How many Lowe's would Rob Lowe rob if Rob Lowe could rob Lowe's? He'd do 2. He'd rob 2. Rob Lowe would rob 2 Lowe's if Rob Lowe could rob Lowe's. Why 2? Well, because there's only 2 in his in driving vicinity, and so he doesn't want to drive further than he would have to rob more Lowe's. So do with that what you will. Anyways. Patrick, oh boy, I can only imagine. What do you got this time, Patrick? Patrick, have you heard the theory that after the Nephilim were out of Israel, they sailed to North America? Native American tradition says they slayed giants, and these giants were the mound builders. I can't say I've heard that particular theory, Patrick. I can't say that. We do know that Nephilim were around after the flood. I can't remember the exact book, but we know that there was specific calling from God to go and eliminate certain people in certain regions because of their connection to Nephilim and whatnot. And we do know that Nephilim were involved with a lot of construction of a lot of very weird things around the world too. So we know that they're still here. That applies to the days of Noah, Genesis 6. The Nephilim are still around and doing what they're doing. So only more confirmation that we're living in the times of Matthew 24. But that particular theory, I don't necessarily know anything about. So, yeah. Let's see here. Chris, believer in Jesus, would you like to build a snowman? No, I hate snow. Hate it. I do not want to build a snowman. You go have fun with that though, Chris. And I'll stay inside and watch you from the window. How about that? Lori S. Question: Trump announced the Patriot Games. What's your take on it? I think it's kind of stupid, to be honest. I know there's a lot of people comparing it to the Hunger Games, like 2 people, male and female, young male and female, from each district, in this case, each state, going and participating in games. I can't deny that it sure seems like there is a quite an interesting connection there, but yeah, we'll see. I think it's pretty stupid though, to be honest. It is, if you want to compare it to prior dictator situations, when Hitler took place, he did something quite similar to that. So something to think about. Patrick, I see your question. Don't want to read it just in case, the platform we're on. I don't really know. So I don't really know. Yeah, that's one that I don't really have an answer for. So, yeah. Oh, Victoria is asking about it too. Did you hear that Trump is making the Patriot Games? 1 man, 1 woman will be picked from each state, participate. Yeah. It's to sound familiar. It sounds like you're catching the same drift too. Yeah. Edward McKelvey, any thoughts on the PSYOP about the MIT professor Brown College stuff? That was probably sent in before we covered it, so I think I covered your thing there, Edward. And that's the question too. That's the one where I said that you're probably going to have more questions than answers. And I don't know. The question, it doesn't have a name on it, but it's this question. So why the murder of the MIT scientist who could help the TAE and Trump media? That's the golden question. I'm glad that you asked, whoever that was, asked that at the end, because I wanted to bring that up. I just forgot to bring it up. That's the golden question. Why would they get rid of this guy who was the main dude who managed to figure out the stabilization of nuclear fusion turbulence. Oh, Doc. It says Doc. Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Doc. That's the golden question. I don't know. That's one of those things that we may never have an answer for. Was he going to blow the lid on something? Was he against trying to industrialize something like this? Did they use him, get everything that they need out of him, and then eliminate him? Who knows? I don't know. There's nothing in my findings that has led me to anything that could determine why they would want to get rid of this guy. But when you take the merger and the dude's history of being connected to the TAE, to MIT, and to the UK, AK, whatever it is, over there, he's got history with all that. And then the Trump media thing comes in, and then he just happens to be eliminated after the Brown thing, and it's fascinating. So I don't have an answer for you on that one. We'll wait and see. Maybe we'll get a sniff of something of why. Maybe we won't. So that's the thing. We don't necessarily collect all the answers, but that's one that I don't know. That's a question that I'm sitting there going, why? Why would they get rid of this guy? Why? So obviously there's a reason for it. So, all right, guys, that's it for our questions. Nothing from the peanut gallery tonight, I guess. So, but yeah, that's it. So usual spiel. If you guys can, like, share, subscribe, get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. So if you guys can hear me saw it and like, share, subscribe, I would certainly appreciate it. It helps reach people who have questions, want to know what's going on, and ultimately need the gospel of Jesus Christ. They need that hope and salvation that only he can provide. So liking, sharing, and subscribing does help do that. Also follow Rumble and Telegram. Those are my backup channels. If I get booted off YouTube, we'll be back up live streaming over on Rumble. Make sure you guys go ahead and follow over there. Telegram, post updates, announcements, and other little things that I can't necessarily put in video format. I throw on Telegram. So if you don't like Telegram, you don't like Rumble, I completely understand. Just make sure you bookmark the WretchedWatchmen.com website. It's your one-stop shop to stay up to date on everything that's going on. Latest podcasts, announcements, live streams, the free book to download, everything that you want to know is over there. So make sure you guys bookmark that page so you're always up to date on everything. And last but not least, if you guys would like to support this channel, what I got going on, I got donation links down below. CashApp, Venmo, and GiveSendGo. This channel is not monetized. I don't make anything from ads, views, or anything like that. It runs solely off of your guys' generous donations. So if you guys would like to support this channel and everything that we're doing over here, those links are below. Again, you guys are the ones that make this run. You guys are the ones that allow everything to be free and the gospel to get out to all these people and everything. And you guys are just incredible. I thank the Lord for you guys every day. I do. And I'm blown away by your support and your prayers, encouragement, and your gifts and everything. You guys are awesome. So thank you guys for that. Yeah. So tomorrow is Sunday. Make sure you guys get your wretched heathenic misfit booties to church tomorrow, whether online or in person, doesn't matter as long as it's a Bible believing, Christ following church. That's the important part. And if we're not out here by Tuesday, same time, same place, meet you guys right back here. Peace out. Fair enough.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.